Back in October of 2010, Cartoon Network would premiere a new show on their channel. 3 months later, that brand new show would come to an end in January of 2011, only premiering a total of 10 episodes, each with an 11-minute runtime before it would be canceled, giving this show the illustrious title of Cartoon Network's shortest-lived show. The show that would produce the least amount of episodes for the network was Robotomy. Or Robotomy, or whatever you want to call it.
Robotomy.
Set upon the planet inhabited by violent killer robots called Insanius, two robot friends, Blastus and Thrasher, must navigate their high school lives. The story as to how the show that seemed to be doomed from the beginning is actually pretty interesting, and the reasons why it was greenlit and the reasons it failed is also equally as interesting, so grab a can of your favorite motor oil as we cover this minuscule rise and tremendous fall of the surprisingly graphic and mature, action-packed Cartoon Network forgotten series, Robotomy. Or Robotomy. Or whatever it's called.
Wow, that's actually the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Let's celebrate!
Our main characters are Thrasher and Blastus. They're both very similar to normal high school human students. They crave affection from their crushes and try to avoid being killed off for their humane qualities. You know, typical high school stuff. Thrasher is the taller of the two. He is voiced by Patton Oswalt. Yeah, that Remy Rat fella from Ratatouille. Thrasher is the main protagonist and is more apathetic compared to Blastus. But then again, 'tis the angsty and self-absorbed life of a teenager. Throughout the series, he is constantly chasing his crush, Mamie, using this as the primary motivation for many of the actions throughout the series. Blastus, on the other hand, is much more empathetic, but is motivated by popularity, resulting in him being the more outgoing one whose schemes don't always work out as he has planned. Voiced by John Gemberling, the two of them often argue and act more like brothers than best friends, to be honest, but they manage to both make it out of dangerous situations just by the skin of their robot teeth. Do robots have teeth? Or skin? It's just all metal, right? So would their teeth be considered a grill? These are the important questions that no one is asking. Along with our two main leads, there are some bigger names in the cast list, including Kate McKinnon, Dana Snyder, Jack McBrayer, and even Lil Jon was in 2 episodes. The idea for the show came about in a pretty comical way. The creators of the show, Michael Buckley and Joe Deasy, were approached by Cartoon Network to create a show, and they pitched dozens of ideas, month after month. Each idea the executives were just not fans of. So in a frustrated last-ditch effort to just get them off their backs, they created an idea that they were approaching from a different mindset. From there, they came up with this idea for a violent show focused on killer robots in high school, and surprise, surprise, they loved it. They wanted to capture the combination of Superbad, Transformers, and the WWE all in one show. And that sounds freaking awesome. They purposefully made it heavy on violence and easily affronting. But the network greenlit the show, and so we have what we know today as Robotomy. Robotomy. We don't have a lot of it, but we sure do have it. For what we do have, that super bad feeling is surely there with these two robots. They stand out from the murderous shenanigans that litter their peers by, just like in Superbad, having a through-line plot of gaining the affection of a female robot, or to be kind of popular. It has a level of fun to it that I can appreciate because it feels like it's playing outside of the rules for traditional programming, at least on a kid's network. But it is clear to see that the show, while trying to apply its reach to several demographics, that it unfortunately ended up capturing none of them.
I'm sorry, my friend got carried away with crazy promises.
Robotomy. New series premieres next.
On the surface, cancellation would seem pretty obvious, based on the show feeling a bit too mature for regular Cartoon Network and appearing more fitting for the Adult Swim content block. There's no explicitly mature themes, but there's definitely a ton of implicit mature content. It plays along an unspoken thin line where it's a bit much for younger viewers, but not crude enough to be considered for an older audience. They still made edgier jokes or references, but conveniently cut each other off before the actual mature character, word, or concept was expanded upon. These jokes were definitely going over the heads of any kid under the age of 12, which means that the general appeal to a younger audience just wasn't very strong. Unless you just like robots and the wacky visuals on the screen, there may not have been much there to attach onto at a younger age. In an MTV interview, one of the co-producers, World Leaders Entertainment, who worked with Cartoon Network, stated, "The way Cartoon Network has blended its Adult Swim identity, look, feel, attitude, etc. with its core kid programming is totally brilliant to us. As you can tell, Robotomy is very much a partnership between the network's kids side and Adult Swim." Wow, where can any of that go wrong? But I mean, technically they're not wrong. They definitely did achieve some sort of partnership between the regular Cartoon Network content and Adult Swim, but there's a reason that these two are separate to begin with. It's just not going to work if you try to appeal to all audiences when you're relying on the mature themes in the first place. They certainly did try to make a show that skewed older, but was also appealing to a younger age range. But at that point, it was 75% Adult Swim and 25% Cartoon Network. The show would most likely have had much more success airing during Adult Swim due to it prioritizing its older audience. Because of this, other international distribution was basically non-existent. While Canada did air this show on Cartoon Network, any other network did not want anything to do with this show due to its maturity and violence. Another reason why the show was canceled can be attributed to the high production budget it racked up. The animation team is also the team that worked on Chowder, and the animation itself is heavily action-oriented. There's a lot going on at all times, and you can tell that the animation team is heavily talented because the art style is very impressive. It tends to stick to a minimal color palette, very heavy on the darker yellows, reddish browns, and the desaturated blues and greens, with metallic textures and a gritty feel to each shot. The style feels very cohesive and establishes the setting very well. It's kind of perfect for an apocalyptic planet. But then again, there's not a ton of variety in each episode. Inspired by the works of Paul Klee, a Swiss-German artist, and Katsuhiro Otomo, a Japanese manga artist, the show was going for a bold, fresh look, one that would mirror the universe, so this influenced their decision to mute the initial color palette to refocus the viewers to the style of their line work. When there is a pop of color thrown in, the fluorescent inspirations do jump out even more thanks to the show in general's looks. So I get why there is less of it in the show. Less is more and is more effective when doing so. I just personally love bright splashes of color, so when it's not in the show for a majority of it, it maybe could have done with a little bit more of it. You know, contrast the whole murderous robot thing. Online, there are a lot of connections drawn to whatever happened to Robot Jones, which I covered a little while back here on the channel. It was another Cartoon Network show from the early 2000s, and yeah, in general, it's true. The base subject of attending school and the trying to fit in of a robot is definitely something that the two shows have in common, but I feel the main similarities lie in the art design and the setting of the characters. They both heavily feature bold outlines and detailed work. The general design of robots in Robotomy, or Robotussin, is very obviously heavily influenced by the rise of robotics and computer intelligence of the 80s. Clunky metals, various shades of mixed gray colors, it's very different from a modern design. Think Wall-E versus Eva. Both Robot Jones and Robotussin draw inspiration from a pre-modernized robotic design. While the cartoon was pretty much ignored by Cartoon Network after its cancellation, it was available on Netflix until 2015, and even reruns aired on Cartoon Planet for a year in 2012. However, the network did give a little nod of acknowledgement in its crossover Nexus episode of OKKO Let's Be Heroes, where Blastus makes a fleeting appearance in the background. But then again, is there any show that they didn't reference in this episode? So overall, crumbs. They're giving the show crumbs.
Next, Robotomy.
Overall, the general concept is an interesting topic to cover for a cartoon, and it had potential to touch on some interesting topics if it were given more freedom from the network to tackle less kid-friendly subjects. Personally, I love the idea of a dystopian and inhuman planet where robots have traditional structures like schooling and obviously feel human-like emotions such as love, anger, fear, and pride, but Robotomy uses it as more of a plot device ensuring absurdist plot points for a laugh. Shows like BoJack Horseman are centered around around core mortal fears like death, disappointment, existentialism, and more. There could be room to look into all of this for an actual serious topic and still making it for comedy. And I do appreciate a good comedy, but I feel like it has to feel deserved and there has to be a bit of clarity in the chaos, or else everything just feels aimless and lost. I would have loved to see the show go in a direction that tackles these themes with a more intelligent approach. Not to say that the show isn't intelligent, it just felt lacking when it came to the nuance of it all. The writers are clearly witty and had the potential to make more of an interesting statement about this backwards world where leaders choose to blow their budgets on explosives as opposed to textbooks. Despite being forced to go to school every day, both teachers, students, and world leaders all agree on the insignificance of education on their planet. All in all, it had a lot of potential but was just in the wrong place with an underdeveloped idea and possibly at the wrong time. Today, a show like this could do great and have the time to flesh out its original point. It would just need to decide which part of the audience demographic it needs to aim for. If you want to go for that super bad feel, lean into the absurdity of it. Go into the more mature themes and make it for adults. And why does Cartoon Network have such a weird love-hate relationship with robot shows? I feel on the channel we have covered so many of them, and every time one robot show was canceled, another would come around, then be canceled, and then another would come around. Cartoon Network, most of these robot shows are great, you're just not giving them enough time to shine, or you're having them come out at the wrong time, or in this case, releasing it on the wrong programming block on your own network. But cheers to the next robot show, and presumptive sorry for its cancellation. But what are your thoughts on this? Did you even see or know about this show? And if you did you enjoy it? And if you do need a refresher, it's a really approachable series with a total runtime of under 2 hours. So let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe with notifications on for more content like this, or I'll cancel all your internet. Follow me on Twitter, and I'll be back with another video soon, but until then, later.